Hello and welcome back to my channel. Happy hump day, hump day. It is Wednesday and we are gonna go straight in. There are some things to talk about, okay? So right away we're just gonna dive in and it's all gonna be once again about the It Ends With Never saga. There are some things happening. That's it. Grab your emotional lip gloss. Girls and boys, we are going in, okay? You are in frame with Mandy Magnan. Every single day. Day, Blake and Ryan, y'all gotta do something so cray-cray every day. Anyway, this just dropped. I'm sure now it's being heard everywhere, okay? That, yes, Blake Lively has decided to subpoena Scooter Braun. Taylor Swift's obviously arch nemesis, bought the music back, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, she's subpoenaing him. The double standards and the hypocrisy of it all, to me, is like ringing alarms, okay? Because when they tried to subpoena Venable, Taylor Swift's legal firm, for communications between her lawyers and Blake's team, Blake was all up in arms. She filed all of those motions with the court. She had Bryan Freedman's affidavit stricken. Then she joined the Venable courts in the District of Columbia to squash the subpoena. She was fighting so hard to not have Taylor Swift and Venable subpoenaed, and now goes ahead and subpoenas Scooter Braun for what? What does he have anything to do with It Ends With Us? Like, if someone could just explain it, because this is just wild. But let's just read through what it says here. And I quote from Deadline. Blake Lively just had a major win in her multi-million-dollar legal war with Justin Baldoni. And now Taylor Swift's pal is opening up a brand new battlefield with the Shake It Off star's grand nemesis and his company. Former mega manager and very public Baldoni buddy, Scooter Braun's Hypy America, is being subpoenaed in the sprawling case. A notice of subpoena was sent today from Lively's lawyers, with the first attempt to serve it for Thursday. Show this picture of Justin and Scooter Braun like they're buddies, Braun has been the CEO of the U.S. arm of the K-pop corporation Hypy since early 2023, about 2 years after his Ithaca Holdings merged with Seoul-based parent company in just over a $1 billion deal. The new subpoena seeks to hoover up any documents and information that Braun's Hypy America has on the work crisis PR boss Melissa Nathan did for the It Ends With Us director. So just because Melissa Nathan and Scooter Braun work on this Hypy corporation, they get to just subpoena him to see if he did anything for Melissa Nathan for It Ends With Us. It is so wild. I think this is totally for headlines. I think this is a payback to Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh, this is just such nonsense. It's BS. It goes on to say that whatever info Lively's lawyers might acquire from Hypy America and Braun could play a big role in the BTS of what really went down on the It Ends With Us, and in the aftermath, especially if it can prove illuminating in what federal judge Louis J. Lyman called a feud between PR teams. An owner of Hypy America, which holds a majority stake in Nathan, the agency group crisis PR firm, has ex-Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, manager Braun has been mentioned before in the Lively matter, as an August 2024 text from former JonesWorks publicist Jennifer Abel over reports of Baldoni hiring Nathan and Tag to shine up his image amid rumblings of discontent on the It Ends With Us production after the introduction of sharp-elbowed Nathan to Baldoni's team received a heavy dose of coverage. Abel wrote, "At least they didn't mention Scooter." And then it does say that Lively's team didn't respond for comment, which is shocking because they comment on everything. They love to go to the press. I'm sure they had comments for people, their, advertising agency that they love to run to and have all of Blake's products always promoted there, even though it doesn't say it's a paid ad, which it clearly always is. No comment on this, but it's just so funny that they want to subpoena Scooter Braun because he is literally listed on Ryan Reynolds' site as working with Ryan Reynolds in his little up effort initiative that he was planning. He works with Scooter. So something strange is going on here. Not sure what it is. It just seems that something super sketchy is going on here, and it's total BS because he is affiliated with Ryan Reynolds already. So what's going to happen here, I don't know. But it's just the hypocrisy, the BS of it all is absolutely nuts. And you know what's so even nuttier is we still haven't seen Blake's text. I'm sure the Wayfair people still haven't seen them either. And they only have Justin Baldoni's text with Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel through that fake lawsuit, which created a sham subpoena to get them. Blake, where are your communications? I would love to see the talk that you had with Leslie Sloan and everyone else. Do you know? It's just like because they mentioned Scooter one time, you get to subpoena him, already knowing that Ryan Reynolds has Scooter on his website working with him and collaborating with him on his group initiative. Just seems like, once again, another shady move and complete BS. It just seems, I don't know what to think of this yet, but except that it's shady again. I was very happy yesterday to see Bryan Freedman finally back out talking with the public, talking with the TMZ. He was on there, and it's heartbreaking what happened to Justin Baldoni and the Wayfair people and how they were just so dismissed on almost everything. But what Bryan Freedman had to say, I think, is what we're all echoing. The fight isn't over, and Blake's little fake victory lap doesn't say anything. She didn't prove anything. This was secondary to them. Of course, I think they should have written the check, $400 million. Okay, what they did is monstrous. It's disgusting. But let's hear Bryan Freedman on TMZ.
Your reaction to the judge's decision yesterday to dismiss the biggest one being the defamation claim.
Well, we weren't pleased that the judge dismissed the defamation claim, but it didn't, overall, it's not what the case is about. I mean, let's remember where we got started here. We got started because Blake Lively filed a CRD complaint, and then, walked over and filed a lawsuit, which,
Right. So she went and filed the CRD complaint and put all of that stuff in there, all of those lies, all of this story that had no facts, just complete allegations, nothing to back it up, no proof whatsoever. And because she filed that CRD complaint, now everyone is okay to say whatever they want. It's not defamation because she has that protection because it was legally filed, even though there is still no proof that it was the truth. It's a shame, and it's literally teaching other people how to do the exact same thing and get away with doing whatever they want to innocent people.
Accused some very good people of a smear campaign and accused, a terrific young man of sexual harassment, both of which were completely untrue. And that's where the case got started. It's where the case stands today. Those claims that she brought exist. That's where we want our win. From day one, where we wanted our win, in addition to getting damages, but where we wanted our win is to show there was no smear campaign and there's no sexual harassment. And she hasn't proved.
There is no smear campaign. To this day, Blake Lively, to this day, even from this video I'm making right now and every video that anyone makes, she is claiming that that is further of the smear campaign. That there is this smear campaign. Instead of just accepting the truth that, hey, I'm a narcissist, people don't like me, they're not responding well to what I'm doing now, the world is changing, the veil has come undone, let me just work on myself to be an authentic, good person, and let me just take a step back and figure it out and come back and, be a good person. But she's not. And she thinks because people don't like her, generally people don't like her because she's always like this, like the queen of the world and completely tone deaf and so so manipulative and just a grifter in all directions. She doesn't understand why. She still doesn't understand that it's not a smear campaign, that people generally did not like how she treated Justin Baldoni during the PR tour. Everyone noticed. Where's Justin? Why is Blake going on this PR tour promoting the movie like she's the director, like she's the filmmaker? And then promoting her hair care line and her Betty Boo's alcohol line during a movie about DV.
But do you plan to refile any of the other, I think there are 3 other claims that you could refile, correct?
There's actually 4, and the judge was very specific about them. Intentional interference with contract against Blake and Ryan, intentional interference with prospective economic advantage, that exists still, and that's against Blake and Ryan. Negligent interference with prospective economic advantage, that's against Blake and Ryan, and breach of the implied duty of covenant of good faith and fair dealing. And those are, that's against Blake. And those claims still exist. The judge just wants us to replead them and gave us a roadmap on how to do that.
Well, will you do that?
Of course we'll do that. I mean, for sure. And, as part of doing that also, we're also going to fight her claims, which have existed since the beginning here. And there's been absolutely no indication of any kind that she's prevailing on her claims. As a matter of fact, just the opposite.
You mentioned in June her deposition. What's your strategy for that? What's the key question you want to get her under oath on?
State your name. I want to see if she shows up.
And once she does, what do you do after that?
I'm going to ask her questions under penalty of perjury, and she's going to have to provide evidence, and she's going to have to provide the truth of the stories. And we have all the videotape, we have all the footage, we have, the text messages, and we have emails, and we're going to see how consistent her testimony is with the actual facts of what transpired.
It is so far from over, he says, which is really good. And I hope Blake is, taking notes. That's what you're supposed to do in this kind of situation. Do it the right way, go through lawyers, take a step back, take care of yourself and your loved ones, and fight in the appropriate way. Not through all the ways that this Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are doing. You've seen them more since they filed this CRD complaint and lawsuits. You've seen them more in the past 6 months than you ever have. It's getting to be so disgusting. It's so distasteful that they're just splattering themselves all over every day. They're going to an event, they're doing something, they're out on the red carpet, they're doing this, that. They're buying more sports teams, they're going to all these events. Like, girl, it's gross, okay? This is, this is not how you behave. I just think it is so tasteless. Really shows just how serious they're taking it and how traumatized Blake was. That even in the midst of this, she hasn't skipped a beat, and now they are trying to do this whole rebranding where Blake's this victim. I mean, Blake loves to live in victimhood, okay? She loves to be a victim. Now they're rebranding her as this sweet little innocent girl. Buddy, you don't change like that, okay? You don't change like that. We've seen all of your ads on your Betty Boos. We've seen your old interviews. We've seen how you acted even recently on the It Ends With Us, right? Come on. A branding like this, that's what you're going for? And you want people to, what? Play dumb and just eat it up? Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. And I never wanted to jump on the train that Judge Lyman is biased or that he's in Blake and Ryan's pocket. I don't want to take that stance. I don't want to believe that stance because it's I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, that they're in the position they're in for a reason. The judge knows what he's doing and he's being as unbiased as possible and following all of the law, right? There's just some weird things that have happened lately, in the past 48 hours that makes me really, think. So we're just going to go over the first few. So this was on, let's see if you can see the date. This was on the 9th when he granted all of those dismissals, right? And then you get Jed Wallace, who filed a supplemental letter motion in order to stay in discovery. This was filed by Jed Wallace. to, stay in discovery until whether or not they find out if their case is going to be dismissed by Blake Lively. Of course, Blake Lively filed a letter motion in order to have the opposition to Jed Wallace and Street Relations motion to stay in discovery. Then there was a motion to unseal these exhibits, and this was granted. What was unsealed was another motion that Blake had previously had. And then you have this filed by the judge as well, where he denies discovery for Marvel Entertainment as well as James Vitsuska, and he says all of that is mute now because he threw out the lawsuit from Baldoni's people. Now we're just going to go through one by one, and then I'm just going to talk about some specifics. Then you have, which we already went over yesterday, Blake Lively files for sanctions again under Rule 11 on the Wayfair people. And then what I thought was going to be okay was Brett Douglas McDowell as well as Eiko Ishiwada, who already has claims in against Ryan Reynolds in the District of British Columbia, Canada, for using likeness, for their creative control, for a whole bunch of stuff. They have filed many letters with the court. Then they filed an intervener's request to reserve the ruling on Rule 24. They asked for 48 hours just to see if they can get the discovery that was already happened with Marvel. And the next day, the judge denied it. They asked for 48 hours. The next day, he was like, nope. This is where they grant the order to unseal those documents. And these are question and answers from Blake, which maybe I'll get into in another video. This won't be the video. What we are going to talk about, though, is these letters submitted by Ezra Hudson, Blake Lively's attorneys, just clarifying what the judge meant. If they don't provide medical records, can they use any kind of emotional duress in their case? Can you clarify? We're playing really dumb now, even though they filed bam, bam. I mean, they have filed more in this case than anybody else, but now, they're playing pretty dumb. Then you have here order denying the motion to stay. So even though he did it with the New York Times for Jed Wallace, he's like, no, your motion to stay discovery is denied. It's like almost everything that has to do with the Wayfair people or on the other side of the table, then Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds team, everything gets denied. Then the judge puts in this order granting motion for leave to file documents. This motion is to leave to file a reply is granted. And then he will get into that one. But then there's that for the Wayfair people that he ordered them to respond, which they did respond next. Then on the very same day, the reply to that response for motion sanctions against the Wayfair people. And then now this is filed by Ryan Reynolds because, of course, Blake Lively filed for more sanctions. So Ryan Reynolds did too. Ryan Reynolds, you're not even invited here. You shouldn't even be here. You had no business stealing that script and rewriting scenes and then having your wife write out 14 paragraph text messages that are so ridiculous. Oh, no one ever takes me seriously as a writer. I've done so much writing. Like absolute horrendous text messages begging to have her writing in the movie, then to just say all along that her husband did it. Wow, how feminist of you, Blake. Liar, liar, pants on fire. So now he's filed more sanctions. He already filed sanctions for Rule 11, but now he's filed more sanctions. And then the judge, he's come back and he's ruled on, he's answered Blake Lively's call of like, well, if I don't provide my medical records, can I show anything? Well, he made a ruling on that. That's exactly what we're going to focus on coming into it. And then you have here that there's just some new lawyers joining, a bunch of new lawyers. And oh my gosh, look at that. They work for advocate firms. Oh, so cool. More advocacy groups coming in. Blake Lively filed a motion to compel the Wayfair Studios to answer a bunch of the discovery that she had sent them. And Judge Lyman pretty much came back and said, yeah, if you have it in your possession, you need to answer. And you have by Thursday, June 12th at 5 p.m. for the Wayfair entities to show cause why they should not be ordered to produce all responsive documents, including asserting any claims of privilege. That was filed on June 10th by the judge. That same day, the Wayfair people came and they had something to say. This is a letter of response to be compelled for the motions. This was on June 10th, as it states, as counsel for the Wayfair Studios LLC, Justin Baldoni, Jamie He, Steve Swartz, It Ends With Us Movie LLC, Melissa Nathan, the agency Group PR, and Jennifer Abel, collectively the Wayfair parties, we write in opposition to the motion by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, collectively the Lively parties, to compel certain discovery from the Wayfair parties, the motion. Specifically, the motion seeks responses to 3 interrogatories, collectively the interrogatories propounded by the Lively parties. As detailed below, the Wayfair parties had already started prior to this motion that they will substantively respond to 2 of the interrogatories by June 13th, thereby muting the motion. For the remaining interrogatory, the motion should be denied because such interrogatory is hopelessly vague and ambiguous. Respectfully, we're before the court solely because the Lively parties served interrogatories that were not consistent with Federal Rules Civil Procedure 26B and or Local Civil Rule 33.3A and have been unwilling to bring them into compliance. Even though the Wayfair parties served their valid responses and objections to the interrogatories on April 18th, 2025, the Lively parties waited 3 weeks until May 9th, 2025 to challenge those responses and objections and seek to meet and confer. After a telephone meet and confer on May 13th and an email on May 16th from the Lively parties counsel purporting to memorialize the parties' positions, the Wayfair parties substantively responded a few business days later on May 21st. The Lively parties then waited until May 30th, 2025, 9 days later, to respond. In that May 30th, 2025 email, the Lively parties unilaterally demanded that the Wayfair parties supplement their responses to certain interrogatory by June 6th. The Wayfair parties assured the Lively parties that supplemental responses would be forthcoming by June 13th. Instead of waiting until June 13th, the Lively parties filed the motion. It would be exhausting being a lawyer for Blake Lively. It would be exhausting being on anything to do with her. She's exhausting. Identification of email accounts provided by the Wayfair parties to third parties. The first interrogatory at issue, which the Lively parties acknowledged was ambiguous, asked the Wayfair parties to identify any email account from May 1st, 2024 to date in which any third party, including but not limited to content creators of the media, had access for the purpose of communicating information of any kind, including messaging, talking points, guidelines, scripts, or other information regarding Miss Lively, Mr. Reynolds, the digital campaign, the CRD complaint, or the actions. At the heart of our good faith attempts to meet and confer is the Lively party's failure to adequately define access in the context of a non-existent, untraceable smear campaign. A concept which is unfamiliar to us and, importantly, appears to be unfamiliar to the Lively parties, who have been unable to clearly articulate what they are seeking. Although they did give 2 examples, providing login credentials was their suggestion, not ours, their catch-all language recreated ambiguity. Without citation to any evidence or even specifying the factual basis of their allegation, the Lively parties allege that they believe the Wayfair parties have engaged in covert tactics to communicate with the third parties in a manner to avoid leaving a paper trail, such as by placing information in a draft folder or other email repository, and providing a third party with viewing access to the folder email, which enables the third party to view the information without leaving a digital trace. For avoidance of doubt, the Wayfair parties have never engaged in such alleged clandestine communication. Never. Lively has indicated a deficiency in the response of only one of the Wayfair parties, the agency group or TAG. TAG will substantively respond to the interrogatory by June 13th, 2025, thereby mooting this portion of the motion. They already talked about this outside of the court, which is what Judge Lyman had requested a long time ago, for y'all to confer, do it yourselves, don't keep running back to the court. But what does Blake Lively get to continually do? Run back to the court and get her way every single time, which is literally against what Judge Lyman had already requested. So why is it okay for one party to do this and not the other? And they already met and confer about this and knew to wait till June 13th, but literally still filed this motion to compel. Make it make sense, people. Identification of media outlets with whom the Wayfair parties communicated. The second interrogatory at issue, which the lively parties acknowledged were overbroad, now asked the Wayfair parties to identify all reporters and news or media outlets of any kind with whom you have communicated in any manner concerning Miss Lively, Mr. Reynolds, the CRG complaint, the actions, or the Lively Reynolds companies from June 15th, 2024 to the present. Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 26B 1 provides that parties may obtain discovery regarding any non-privileged matter that is relevant to any party's claims or defense. As memorialized by the parties' emails, the lively parties improperly refused to limit the scope of this interrogatory to communications concerning the claims and defenses of this action. In the form proposed by the lively parties, a response to the interrogatory will broadly capture, for example, any reporter or media outlet with whom the Wayfair parties communicated as part of any promotion of the film. It ends with us, because Blake Lively is the co-star of the film. The lively parties do not explain how the identities of the media outlets through whom some of the Wayfair parties promoted the film or communications concerning Lively and Reynolds in general is relevant to Blake Lively's claims or the Wayfair parties' defenses thereto. Nevertheless, to mute the dispute concerning this interrogatory, and by June 13th, 2025, the Wayfair parties will identify the reporters and news or media outlets with whom they have communicated concerning Miss Lively, Mr. Reynolds, the CRD complaint, the actions, or the Lively Reynolds companies from June 15th through December 21st, 2024, which is the date on which Miss Lively filed her complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, alleging that she had been subjugated to the so-called retaliatory smear campaign. The lively parties improperly seek to expand the scope of this interrogatory to the present because, according to them, Ms. Lively's amended complaint alleges that the purported smear campaign is ongoing. However, the amended complaint does not assert any claims by Mr. Reynolds or the Lively Reynolds companies, and therefore the lively parties cannot explain why the Wayfair parties should be compelled to identify any communications pertaining to them. Moreover, and putting aside that the allegations of an ongoing smear campaign are made on information and belief, the pleading cites to the communications at issue. Identification of content creators with whom the Wayfair parties communicated. Lastly, the lively parties demand that the Wayfair parties identify all content creators with whom you have communicated in any manner concerning Miss Lively, Mr. Reynolds, the CRG complaint, the actions, Lively Reynolds Company, or the digital campaign from May 1st, 2024 to present. According to the lively parties, they are willing to narrow the term content creators to mean any individual or entity who seeds, generates, creates, or influences social media content or provides related digital or social media services directly or indirectly at the request of or on behalf of any Wayfair party or their agents' affiliates. Regardless of the lively party's attempt to salvage this interrogatory, it is still hopelessly vague, unduly burdensome, and seeks irrelevant information in violation of Local Civil Rule 33.3a. In this age of social media, virtually everyone within a wide demographic can generate or create online content. Moreover, as noted above, certain Wayfair parties necessarily communicated with content creators to promote the film, and such communications have no relevance to the claims and defense herein. The Wayfair parties reasonably suggested to the lively parties that this interrogatory should be narrowed to content creators that monetize their original content and have at least 10,000 followers or subscribers, which is a widely recognized benchmark where online users unlock monetization features and begin to attract brand interest on a single major platform, such as IG, TikTok, Facebook. The lively parties rejected that proposal. The Wayfair parties further proposed to limit the interrogatory to communications concerning the subject matter of this litigation. In response, and without further effort, the lively parties filed the motion. Local Civil Rule 33.3 restricts the scope of interrogatories to those seeking names of witnesses with knowledge of information relevant to the subject matter of the action. Emphasis added. Lively propounded this interrogatory only to tag. Civil Rule 33.3 restricts the scope of interrogatories to those seeking names of witnesses with knowledge of information relevant to the subject matter of this action. This interrogatory violates Local Civil Rule 33.3, granting protective order over certain interrogatories that violated it. We respectfully request that the court deny Lively's party's motion. I mean, to me, it fully makes sense. I mean, why isn't she waiting? I mean, they already agreed to do it. Then they asked to narrow the scope. I mean, she just wants every interaction. Like, literally, I work with companies who send me pre-screeners of movies, send me trailers to watch, send me things to review and talk about on social media. That is part of just the social media age. So just because they contacted people to go watch the film or screen the film or give a review or something has nothing to do with a smear campaign. It's so bonkers. And now, y'all, this is where you're going to need that emotional support lip gloss, okay? I'm telling you, because Snake Lively is at it again with some very snaky, shady moves. Ugh, let me get comfy. This was filed also on June 10th. Big day in the courts yesterday. And it is absolutely insane. And the judge has already ruled on it. He's already decided. So let's just read what this says. It's only 3 pages. And wow, the absolute sheer audacity. That's all I'm going to say here, okay? This is from Ezra A. Hudson, Blake Lively's lawyer. On behalf of plaintiff Blake Lively, we write seeking clarification regarding the court's June 3rd, 2025 order denying the Wayfair party's letter motion to compel and opposition thereto. By that order, the court denied the motion to compel information regarding the identity and treatment records of Miss Lively's health care providers related to emotional distress, as well as the HIPAA waiver. Based on plaintiff's representation that the relevant claims will be withdrawn, the court also directed that the dismissal of Miss Lively's 10th and 11th causes of action for intentional and negligent infliction of emotional distress respectively be completed by their joint stipulation of the parties of a formal motion by plaintiff Miss Lively writes to clarify that while she intends to withdraw her tort claims for emotional distress, she still pleads and intends to introduce evidence of garden variety emotional distress in connection with the other remaining claims. Absolutely unbelievable. Miss Lively and the Wayfair parties have agreed in principle to dismiss the 10th and 11th causes of action with prejudice. Okay? With prejudice. Which means that is kind of a win for the Wayfair people, because Blake Lively was fighting to have it without prejudice so that she can just reintroduce this whenever she felt like it later on. But they've agreed now that they are going to pull the actions with prejudice. Miss Lively, however, seeks clarification. Please, Judge, please let me know. Please let me know, Judge. Seeks clarification regarding the court's notation in the June 3rd order that Miss Lively would be precluded from offering any evidence of emotional distress in the claims are now dismissed. This leaves open a potential question about what evidence may be presented if the claims are dismissed. Miss Lively respectfully requests clarification from the court on the point before signing a stipulation to dismiss the 10th and 11th causes of action with prejudice. So first she just wants to know, like, hey, listen, this didn't really happen to me and I didn't suffer anything and I don't have any doctor's notes or whatever. Or you know what, I already had all these Delulu problems before it ends with us and I was already seeing a therapist because I was severely postpartum and in an abusive relationship, and I don't want to show anything. Whatever the cause is for not wanting to show the medical records and not want to prove that you were actually severely emotionally distraught from this opposed repeated sexual harassment, she just wants to know before that, but please, will you still let me talk about it? By dismissing these causes of action, Miss Lively is agreeing to forego the presentation of evidence of treatment by healthcare providers or diagnosis for any psychiatric disorder to preserve the psychotherapist patient privilege. This is a well-established right that a plaintiff may exercise in order to protect highly confidential and privileged physical and emotional health information, where still preserving the right to pursue those emotional distress damages that are recognized as inherent in claims for workplace sexual harassment and retaliation. I'm so... Why wouldn't you want to prove your case? Giving your therapist information about what you're going through in the treatments of this supposed sexual harassment that really affected you, where you couldn't get out of bed for days and you couldn't blah, 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 blah. That will only help your case. So why don't you want to show it? It's so shady because it wasn't true. In doing so, plaintiff need not provide any medical corroboration for any alleged injury, nor can she be said to have put her entire physical or mental health at issue. By dismissing the standalone claims for intentional and negligent infliction of emotional distress, Ms. Lively will waive the right to offer testimony or evidence of the identity, records, treatment, or diagnosis of her healthcare providers related to such emotional distress, which was the subject of the discovery the Wayfair party sought to compel. As the council recognized in the June 3rd order, consistent with the law and the draft stipulation for dismissal presented by the Wayfair parties, however, Ms. Lively chose to dismiss is intended to be without the withdrawal or dismissal of any other claim, counterclaim, or third-party claim asserted therein. Thus, Ms. Lively is not abandoning, right? Come on. Oh my gosh. Thus, Ms. Lively is not abandoning emotional distress damages generally and continues to pursue damages for emotional distress that have been recognized as inherent in the workplace harassment and retaliation, often referred to as garden variety emotional distress, as contrasted with claims such as intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress that a defendant's actions result in a specific psychiatric order. In other words, garden variety claims are those which allege that a claimant was scared, embarrassed, shamed, or humiliated, as opposed to action seeking recovery for a serious psychological injury that is the inducement or aggravation of. Now, that's what she's saying, that she just wants now that to be able to prove that she was still embarrassed, okay? That she was still, what do they say? It's so crazy. You know, Ryan Bryan claims that allege that she was scared, embarrassed, shamed, or humiliated, but not to the point severe enough to go and show doctor's notes. Is that where we're at? Is that where we're at? Because you know what? If I call any of my friends right now and make up some story and tell them like, yo, I had to do this. Can you please have my back? They would. But also, you have that already. Friends and families coming to you, like you get witnesses to write you letters. You also get your doctor to. Your doctor and your therapist are the biggest people in this case that should be writing affidavits for you saying what happened, what your diagnosis is, what it was from, what your treatment plan is. In cases where the emotional distress damages are garden variety, the plaintiff will still present her own testimony and testimony of recipient witnesses who observed her emotional distress without providing medical corroboration. This includes testimony that the plaintiff suffered humiliation, anxiety, stress, embarrassment, loss of sleep, loss of appetite, etc. Accordingly, Ms. Lively seeks clarification from the court that should she sign the stipulation for dismissal with prejudice prepared by the Wayfair parties, that the court shall not preclude her from presenting testimony and evidence of garden variety emotional distress damages on the basis including testimony of herself and recipient corroborating witnesses, and the Wayfair parties shall likewise not be precluded from conducting discovery on those topics. And the scope of her waiver is as to offering testimony or evidence of the identity, records, treatment, or diagnosis of her healthcare providers related to such emotional distress. Absolutely ridiculous. The audacity of this woman. And now I just want to go over what garden variety emotional distress is, because I looked it up and it just goes to show then why are we here? Why are we here, Blake? Because the things that you alleged and how it affected you did not seem garden variety. Okay, so this is all BS. Garden variety emotional distress or stress generally refers to the normal, temporary distress or negative emotions experienced in response to a negative event or situation. It's not severe enough to cause a significant disruption in one's life or require professional intervention. Here's a more detailed explanation. Normal and temporary, this type of distress is considered the typical emotional response to a stressful situation. Yeah, normal response to a stressful situation. It's not intense or persistent enough to significantly impact daily life or require professional help. The focus is on the emotions and their impact rather than diagnosed medical conditions or chronic mental health issues. Isn't that nice? This could include temporary feelings of embarrassment, anxiety, or frustration in response to a situation like a workplace disagreement or a missed deadline. So it could just be a workplace disagreement or a missed deadline. That's garden variety. A workplace disagreement or a missed deadline. A missed deadline gives you the same effect of garden variety emotional distress. That's what she wants to claim. The same kind of normal stress you get from missing a freaking deadline. Y'all heard that, right? What garden variety was. It's just a little bit of stress from like a workplace disagreement, missing a deadline, a normal reaction that you get from, a stressful situation or disagreement. That's what now they're claiming, okay? Let's look at Blake's, this is her amended complaint. So this isn't the CRD. This isn't the first one. This is the newest one. And let's see if she's just talking about garden variety emotional stress here. I only pulled out 2 examples because I don't want to waste any people's times because we all know what's going on here. But just for example, okay, this is one of them. As their own words reveal, the purpose of this social manipulation plan was twofold. It aimed to both A, conceal the pattern of harassment and other misconduct by Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfair, and B, retaliate against Miss Lively by battering her image, harming her business, and causing her and her family severe emotional harm. Millions of people, including many reporters and influencers who saw these planted stories, social media posts, and other online content, had no idea that they were unwitting consumers of a crisis PR, astroturfing, and digital retaliation campaign created and funded by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfair to hurt Miss Lively. That's just one. Severe emotional harm. Now, that could be taken as that was their plan. The Wayfair people's plan was to do that to Miss Lively, and it wasn't successful or was successful or whatever. But this is from her own words of what happened to her and her emotion. Listen to this and tell me if you think it's garden variety. The emotional impact on Miss Lively has been extreme, not only affecting her, but her family, including her husband and 4 children. There are days when she has struggled to get out of bed, and she frequently chooses not to venture outside in public. While she has fought to maintain her personal life and business interests, behind closed doors, she has suffered from grief, fear, trauma, and extreme anxiety. She has also been experiencing repeated and painful physical symptoms as a result of this experience. Mr. Reynolds, too, has been affected mentally, physically, and professionally by his wife and children's pain. Worst of all, however, has been the impact on their young children, who have been traumatized and emotionally uprooted in ways they have substantially impacted their well-being. That doesn't sound to me like garden variety. That sounds to me like someone who wants to fight for their rights and fight till the end and show. That sounds to me like If your husband was so loving and you weren't getting out of bed for days and not taking care of your children and not going outside, they would call someone. That sounds to me like you saw someone. That sounds to me very serious. In her own words, extreme. Extreme. And now it's garden variety. Okay. Oh, but don't worry. Judge Lyman came back and he clarified what Blake Lively and their team, what they needed for the clarification. And he said the ruling of docket number 266 that if the claims are not dismissed, the court will preclude Lively from offering any evidence of emotional distress, referred to medical evidence of emotional distress. The ruling did not preclude Lively from offering evidence of garden variety emotional distress. Is that why we're here? For garden variety emotional distress? Is that why we're here? So Blake can have her sisters and Ryan Reynolds come up and her children and say how sad she was and how this. That should be secondary. And as someone who has gone through an harassment claim as with a toxic workplace environment, of course you have witness reports. Of course you have family friends. That's for anything. That's for car accidents. That's for any kind of lawsuit. You don't sue someone over garden variety emotional stress that is calculated the same way as missing a work deadline. Are you serious? At this point, what a joke. What a joke. Anywho, that's it for me today. That's what's going on. What is happening? Every day that this goes on, it seems more like a joke and a joke and a joke to Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Obviously not to the defendants, the Wayfair parties. They want their name cleared. They want this go to trial. They want them deposed. They want to prove that Blake Lively and her little husband lied, manipulated, gaslit the public, and lied. They are liar, pants on fire. And this is a pattern. This is a pattern. They thought that really Wayfair parties were beneath them, that they were nothing, that they were nobodies, and they could go in and bulldoze their way into the set, and they could take over this movie, and the Wayfair people were just going to lay down and let it happen because they've done this to people before. This isn't the first time, but this time they met their match because the Wayfair people they did concede and they did concede and they did concede and they did, and then they said no. And at the first sign of no for Blake to see those dailies before going into phase 2, she lost it. And I truly think that we are here because Blake Lively wants to be treated like a queen, like royalty, like a goddess everywhere she goes. She wants people to bow down to her like she is the actress of the freaking century and bow down and treat her like royalty. And when she got onto the independent set and Wayfair just treated her like talent, like an actress, like a person, like an employee, I think she got all up in her feelings that she wasn't being treated at the utmost royalty level. And I think she was already going a little bit crazy that she wasn't cast as Lady Poole, that she long time wanted to be. So now she's on this set thinking that, oh, it's a small budget film. It's an indie film. What am I doing? I'm just an actor. While her husband took away the role that she's wanted to play for so long, which was Lady Poole. And he went to shoot that while she was shooting this. And I think it drove her nuts on top of the Scarlett Johansson stuff, on top of everything else. I think there's a lot of layers to this, and I think hopefully we get to find out some of them. But Blake and Ryan, y'all are deranged monsters. Crazy. Absolutely. If this judge comes back and grants the motion for sanctions, it's going to tell me something very clear. Very clear. And I think it's what we've all been whispering, thinking about, questioning. But I don't want to believe it yet. Anyway, I hope you all have a good day. It's hump day. I won't be doing any of the humping today, unfortunately. I got to go to work. And thank you everyone that reached out about the dog, asking me if it's okay, and sharing your thoughts about, the day I had on Monday, which was to me a little bit of a heavy, crummy day. There was just so many things going on. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy that we're here for each other and that we're holding space for each other and the community that we're building. Because, not every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows, and not every day is going to be, incredible, but there's always blessings there, and it really starts with the inside, and it starts with you being able to see them and be open enough to just take that first step to whatever it is that you want. So anyway, have the best day. Enjoy it. I will see you soon. I will be here on Friday. Thank you so much. It was always a pleasure. Drop your comments and let me know what you think about all of this, because at this point, I just think I'm like gagged. I'm like, what is going on? It just shows me time and time again that like Blake and Ryan never thought it was going to get this far. I can't even take either of them. I can't wait till they are proven to be the fraudulent, money, hungry, powerful, absolutely monstrous, evil entities that they are. Anyway, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.